SCUF just released a brand new controller and they were almost secret about it. They didn't even tease the drop until just days before its release, but I have it right here, the all-new SCUF Envision. So let's get this thing unboxed. As always, we have the super sleek looking SCUF packaging, and first look at the controller. Okay, after looking everything over, this actually looks pretty promising. So once again, this is a controller only for PC, meaning it can't be used on any consoles, and you can kind of tell that just by the shape. The body is like a PS5/Xbox hybrid shape with actually a fake touchpad. Like, this isn't actually a button. And then it has the button layout of a PlayStation controller, but the actual symbols are the ABXY Xbox symbol. It's honestly sending a lot of mixed signals, but I really only care about the performance, and this controller has a lot of features for that. The most noticeable off the bat is this bar down at the bottom, which they call the G keys, that are versatile macros. And we'll get into that later when I check out the software where you set everything up. So the next thing we'll notice are the 4 back paddles that are placed almost identically to the style of the SCUF Instinct Pro. Now, out of all the SCUF controllers, I've only ever used the SCUF Impact and SCUF Reflex FPS, so this will actually be my first time with paddles of this style, but off my first impression, they feel pretty comfortable. Something that's kind of interesting is that these inside paddles have a mouse click press to them, while these outside paddles feel like your more typical paddles with a sort of dual press that takes slightly more pressure. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it. I mean, when you're actually using it, it makes sense. You only have one finger to press both paddles, so you'll rest your middle fingers on these outside ones and be able to click the inside paddles easily with the side of your finger. We'll have to see how that actually plays out in game, but first, there's still a ton more features to look at. Sticking to the back of the controller, we have the signature SCUF grip built in, which provides just a nice textured rubber feel to it, and it's definitely helpful if your hands get sweaty while gaming as well. But something you'll notice just below the charging port is a little switch to go between wired and wireless. I can't imagine PC gamers would want to game wirelessly, but they give you a dongle, so you always have the option. I personally only play wired at my PC, and they actually provide a SCUF branded USB-C cable, which I'm pretty happy to see. Now, there's still just so much to see, but this just might be the most interesting part about this controller. We have 2 side buttons now called S1 and S2, and the craziest thing is that they're placed perfectly. Like, just naturally grabbing this controller, I can tell I likely won't press them by accident, but at the same time, they're still super easy to press. And the things I've heard you can do with these in the software, like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but we could potentially be looking at the best controller that's ever been made. And if you think I sound too excited about this, just wait until we get to the software. I think you'll understand. But once again, we're not done yet, because the next thing we're gonna see here are the triggers. So you have all obviously seen a normal trigger press, and I'm sure most of you have seen a mouse click trigger. Well, the Envision actually adjusts between the two. And I'm not talking about like DualSense Edge adjustments where the trigger stops barely do anything. I'm talking about an actual mouse click trigger that can also be a normal trigger. Like, I actually didn't know this was possible. I thought the mouse click triggers were from a permanent piece being installed into the trigger, but obviously that's not true. The reason this is so important is because the mouse click trigger not only feels super satisfying, but they also give a reaction time advantage, which is great for games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, all those battle royale first-person shooters. But those obviously aren't the only games in the market, so if you want to play something like Forza where you need that dynamic trigger range, well, just flip your trigger switch and you're able to. It's literally the best of both worlds. Now, we're finally on the home stretch of features before the software, and this next one you won't see just by looking at the controller because it's a part of all the buttons. They all have mechanical switches in them. So you know how like on a gaming keyboard you get that sort of clicky tactile feedback? Well, with the D-pad, the 4 face buttons, L3 and R3, the bumpers, the triggers, the side buttons, and the inside back paddles, you get that same feel. They all feel like a mouse click, which by the way is incredibly satisfying. Like, this controller would make for some great gaming ASMR. So there's that, but there's also the fact that mechanical switches are faster than the normal membrane presses on other controllers. Now, this isn't the first time this has been done. I've seen other Pro PS5 controllers do this before, but those are up in the $300 plus price range. This is $180, and I bought it with my friend's SCUF discount code FOXMAN, so I got it for just over $170. And this is the Pro model. There's actually a base model as well, which gets rid of the adjustable triggers, grip, and is wired only. And that model is $130, but again, with that code FOXMAN, you can even get it for $123, which is honestly crazy when you account for what can be done in this software. But somehow, again, we can't go to the software yet because there's one more thing that I need to show you. So you can see that I obviously selected like the light gray and white colorway. I think it looks super clean. But this faceplate, well, it's actually magnetic. So eventually they're gonna actually sell different design faceplates, and you can completely customize the look of your controller. But that's not the only reason the faceplate comes off. Another reason is because you can do this. Along with this controller, Scuf actually sends us 2 extra thumbsticks. And of course, we can just go ahead and swap these out whenever we want. And that's not even the only thing that can be swapped out. These side action buttons can also be swapped out. And it wouldn't be Scuf unless they sent out some extra alternate options for the side button. So this is the default one. This is one of the alternate options. And then you'll also get these, which are actually alternate options or replacement for these 2 inside paddles. So obviously there's a whole lot of customization going on, but what if I was to tell you that's literally just the beginning of it? Like, watch what you can do in this software. This might actually change gaming. And this is the software I've been talking about all video. So first of all, we can literally customize the RGB if we wanted to. Then over here, we can come and select triggers. And if just having adjustable triggers isn't enough for you, bro, look at this detail. We can come over here. We can change the dead zones of our triggers. We can set them to default to be linear, exponential, aggressive. We can customize them or set it to be default. And if we have that options for the triggers, we obviously have that option for the thumbsticks as well. In most games, you have dead zones, but you are not able to customize it to this degree. Once again, dynamic, linear, exponential, aggressive, custom. Then to the next section, vibration. Again, if you're playing like shooter games, you probably want these all the way down at 0. If you're playing like a story game and you want to feel more immersed, you can turn them all the way up to 100. But almost none of that matters when we compare it to what we can do in this tab. And I'm just gonna say it now, this tab has the potential to change gaming forever. First of all, we have these 6 G keys at the bottom of our controller, and we can come and set it to literally anything. We can quite literally set a G key to launch an app. We can set a G key to mute our mic. We can set a G key to play our music. We could set a G key to be a macro. And you know what's crazy? That's not only limited to the G keys. You can do that same exact stuff with almost any of the buttons on this controller. But look, this is my profile right now. This is how I set up my back paddles. I set up my left side action button to be scroll wheel up. I set up my right side button to be the number 2 on the keyboard. This might not be that big of a deal for other games, but for Fortnite specifically, this software in this controller are a literal game changer. The reason this is a Fortnite game changer is because you can literally set mouse and keyboard macros on these 2 side buttons, and when you press them, it doesn't pop up mouse and keyboard buttons, so you don't lose aim assist. You can sit here and you can still hit all your shots. And what this means is controller players can now have scroll wheel pickup, which is insanely OP. Not only that, but we can have a dedicated shotgun button. And all the while, these are on 2 extra buttons. We're not actually giving up any of our other valuable buttons. On this controller, you literally just get the extra actions because there's 2 extra buttons. I know console players probably aren't happy with this because this is just yet another advantage that PC players have. But if you're on PC, you should be excited because this just opened a whole nother world of opportunity. Just building around right now, the controller does feel really comfortable. Only time will be able to tell how durable it actually is. So I will be switching to this as my main controller for the next at least week. If you want to see more gameplay on it or how it holds up, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. This video was not sponsored in any way, but I will leave the link to the controller down below if you do want to check it out. And thank you so much for watching.